It's moving in the marketplace with your host, Cassandra Ferguson, and it's your time to connect and move in greater areas of influence. You are called to stand out and be a leader in the marketplace, equipping marketplace leaders, business owners, and entrepreneurs to be more effective in the area of influence.
Welcome to Moving in the Marketplace. I hope you guys can hear me okay. I'm your host, Cassandra Ferguson. Now it's time for you to share. This is going to be a great conversation about dementia. It touched my family. My grandmother actually passed from dementia. And some other family members, like my uncle. So it's real in my family, which I'm sure it may be real in some of your families as well. So I'm excited to have this. Our guest, he has a screen name, and then we know him, of course, from his Facebook name, Chuck Brown, but his name is Clarence. I think it's C Nathaniel, and I don't know what the C stands for, but he is going to be joining us in a few. And we are going to welcome him to the conversation after, but we want you guys to share this because, again, this is an important conversation, especially when we talk about the numbers in Baltimore of people that have dementia. So please share, please invite. You can do that right now at this time. And what we're going to do before we bring on C. Nathaniel, Chuck, we are going to actually look at a trailer of the documentary in which he just released. I think he released it in March, but we'll find out more about it. But let's take a look at this trailer real quick.
I really wish that I could just have one more just heart-to-heart conversation with her where she knew me and knew who I was. And we could just talk like we used to. If I could just have one more.
Dementia is a general term to describe a group of symptoms affecting memory, thinking, social skills, and problem solving. There are more than 100 types of dementia, with Alzheimer's disease being the most prevalent. It's taken a toll on the patients, the caregivers, and the community.
So when we look at the disparities, dementia-related disparities, there's so much literature that says that Black Americans are twice more likely than their white counterparts to be diagnosed with a form of dementia. They said by 2030, nearly 40% of individuals that will be diagnosed with dementia, like Alzheimer's disease, will be Black or Latino.
My name is Jackie Collins Riddick. I believe I'm 68, 69, one of those two.
She actually just crossed over to Alzheimer's.
Right.
She was diagnosed with first cognitive decline.
Steve is 50 years old, and I started really noticing the difference like in 2019.
We have to take care of our moms, dads, grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, and all that stuff. We have to look out for them now because we got to show the next generation how to look after us.
This is how this disease is attacking our community, and we're not talking about it.
Wow, that trailer was impactful. And we are going to bring look, I'm gonna call you Chuck. We're gonna bring Chuck Brown on. We're gonna bring him on so we can continue this conversation about dementia and the percentage it was telling us. So let's bring him on the screen. So let's to continue to have the conversation. I was trying to remember the C dot, and then I said, "Is that for Charles?" And then I said, "Okay." Then I said, "You know what? C Nathaniel."
Yeah, I've never been called Clarence before, so that was the first. It is Charles, but everybody calls me Chuck, so you're good with calling me Chuck.
Okay, well, welcome. We want to welcome you to Moving in the Marketplace. And you know, our goal on Moving in the Marketplace is to touch those leaders that are moving in the marketplace and doing things. And of course, you are doing some great and miraculous things. I actually want you to tell our viewers a little bit about you and why this documentary.
Well, I'm originally from Baltimore, born and raised. I left for college, and that started my journey around the country. I currently live in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been here since 2011, and I moved here to really pursue the media and entertainment industries since a lot is going on here, and I am an impact storyteller. So I wanted to be in the middle of all the things that are going on to be able to create more books, work with people who wanted to tell their stories through books, through movies, television. So that's what I do. Not only do I tell my own stories, but I help others tell their stories as well. And so this particular project is, it's not just a passion project, but it's a purpose project because of how it impacted my family and how it impacted a lot of people around me. And I decided I wanted to create an opportunity to share what I was learning because I didn't know how little I knew about dementia, Alzheimer's, and the other forms of dementia. And so once I started the research, I made it my priority to share this information with others because it's not just impacting my family, and it's impacting the African American community harder than any other group. So that's why I decided to do this documentary.
Yeah, because the numbers you said 20% Black or and Latino, right?
Yeah, it's projected to be 40% by
Oh,
2030. That's
wow.
how fast it's increasing and hitting those two communities in particular. And as it said in the trailer, we're not talking about it enough. So it's one of those things where in the Black community, we don't talk about it. We kind of keep it to ourselves. We just label it a certain thing, or we don't want people to call us crazy or say something about our relative. But we don't realize how badly it's hurting us by not talking. So that's what it's designed to do here.
Real and have during your research, is there a reason why? Or and why is the numbers increasing? Because I think about, we living in a society where there's so much technology, so much medicine, but you're saying by 2030, 40%.
Yes. So there is no one known cause for dementia, but there are a lot of risk factors that put you in I don't want to say position because it's not like you're lining up for it, but there are a lot of risk factors that contribute to people having dementia. And those risk factors include stress, which we don't think about leading to high blood pressure, diabetes, sleep apnea, smoking, drinking, drugs, a lot of those things that, are a part of our everyday life that we don't really pay enough attention to prevent those things. And then by the time we get them and it only progresses, they lead to other things.
Mm.
And so again, they can't pinpoint one thing and say, don't eat this food and you'll be fine, or don't drink this only and you'll be fine, because there are a number of things that contribute to it. But the problem is, especially in the African American community and the Latino community, we don't address the issues that we have a lot of times, or we try to wait until it's too late, or we're told by our physicians, "Oh, don't worry about it, we'll deal with it later." We get all of those things, and then before you know it, it becomes such a huge problem, it's too late to do anything about it.
Mm,
And so that's why it's important to understand these risk factors, dealing with your blood pressure, dealing with your diabetes, or preventing yourself from getting one of those conditions, eating healthier, exercising, all of those things that we can pay attention to. We haven't traditionally paid attention to it, and then you throw in the stress, you throw in all the things that have happened over the history of us being in this country. All of those things contribute to it, and so
mm,
we don't have access to quality health care. We don't trust the medical community. We don't participate in research and studies that could help us. So there are a lot of things that contribute to it that we need to learn. What are they? What do we do? How do
mhm,
we make a difference? And so that's the challenge with sharing this information, is hopefully it'll stimulate somebody's mind, their curiosity. It'll make a difference in their family. Then it'll make a difference in their community, in their city, in their state, and then the entire country. So we want this to be a well that
mhm,
just continues to swell as more people learn about it.
mm. And you also mentioned in a couple of comments that I've seen on social media that Baltimore has the highest.
Yes, Baltimore is leading the nation. In a couple of studies, it says it's tied with Miami-Dade County, but it's one or two pretty much consistently in the highest rates of dementia, specifically Alzheimer's. And people are saying, well, why is that? Again, you go back to all of those risk factors that I mentioned. You factor into the number of African Americans, the number of people in the city below the poverty line, the disparities in healthcare. All of those things will contribute to those numbers rising. And
Mm,
then you have more younger people being diagnosed than ever before.
mm,
So before, that statistic is based off of 65 and older, which is why you would see Miami-Dade County, because a lot of retirees go there, they're older, and then they have a lot of those risk factors as well. But when it comes to Baltimore, you have all of those conditions that I
wow,
mentioned before, that causes those numbers to rise.
wow. So what I'm hearing, Chuck, is we need to take better care of ourselves.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
mean, and pay attention to and also, let's be honest, pay attention to the warning signs.
Yes. And we don't do it. Or we do it when we do it, we wait till it's too late. So we
Yeah.
have to do it early enough that if they do find something, because since there is no cure for dementia at this time, there are treatments that can slow the process.
Hmm.
But that only happens when they find it early.
Hmm.
When it progresses too much, there's nothing that can be done, and that progression speeds up.
Mm,
So if you have something going on, go get checked out, talk to somebody, talk to your doctors. And then that way you can get the treatment that will slow it down, and you can enjoy your life for longer, and a better quality of life for longer with your family and your friends.
mm. Does it say, well, how do they screen, for dementia?
Yeah, so there are several cognitive tests that can be done, and some of it is just memory exercises, just to kind of see what's happening. We all forget stuff from time to time, so we don't want people to just panic. But if things are progressively getting worse, you can go and you can talk to your PCP, your primary care physician, let them know what's going on, and then they can start the process of figuring out what's wrong. Then they might refer you to a psychologist or a psychiatrist who would be able to do additional tests to rule out some things, because there are a lot of things that happen. For example, depression can mimic dementia
Oh
and vice
wow.
versa. So there are things that will look like it could be cognitive impairment or dementia that is not. So when you go to talk to your doctors and your therapists and things like that, they will begin to rule things out so that they
Mhm.
can pinpoint is exactly happening to you. And then from there, if it continues, then there are actually scans, PET scans, CT scans, MRIs that will be able to give a closer look at what's going on in your brain.
Oh wow. So, viewers, we need you to pay attention to this. And also, we definitely are going to encourage, because I know you did a screening in Baltimore at the
Yes,
Enoch Pratt Library downtown, right?
correct.
So, I don't know if you're coming back this way or what's the next step after the screening. How does that work?
So we are, Baltimore was the official kickoff of what we're calling the Exposed Dementia Tour.
Mhm.
So this coming Saturday, we will be in Atlanta screening. And then April 20th, we'll be in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And then in May, we're going to Houston, and then several film festivals as well. So we're just kicking off this tour where we're really taking it around the country to the communities, to the people. That way, it'll continue to grow, and the message will get out there as much as possible, because that's how we're going to be able to make a difference.
So, it's not on any other shows we can watch right now, like a Netflix or anything like that, right?
No, not right now. So the tour and the film festival run is probably going to run through the end of this year, and
Hmm.
then we're also working on a 5-part series to be able to provide more information and more details about different aspects, including caregiving, the church's role, what type of things are being done. But I will be coming back to Baltimore at least 2 times. One
Hmm.
for sure in November. I'll make sure you have the details with
Okay.
that. But we're doing a project with the Alzheimer's Association of Greater Maryland for their annual event, November the 9th. And then I'm working with a group of pastors in Baltimore who wants to bring it back to the community with several congregations together.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I definitely appreciate the work you're doing. Like I said in the beginning, it has definitely hit my family. My grandmother passed from dementia. My uncle, all on my father's side, you
Okay.
know, we have seen this kind of thing continue on that side. And I'm going to be honest, a lot of them had diabetes as well.
Yeah, it's usually some other condition, pre-existing condition that also contributes to it. Because basically what's happening is your brain is being impacted, whether it's protein buildup, whether it's trauma, say people that play football or soccer and the constant contact, it begins to damage the brain and it's
Mhm.
slow. When you have sleep apnea, for example, and you don't get enough sleep, you're not getting the oxygen to your brain that you need. So then it's slowly but surely being impacted and it only gets worse. Same thing with diabetes or high blood pressure. The blood is impacting everything.
Mm,
So if you're not getting enough blood, or if it's too much blood, or if it's not the right blood, it's impacting your brain. And so
mm,
that's how different plaques and things build up on the brain that causes problems with your memory, with your thinking, with your logic and your direction and things like that. And because there are so many different types of dementia that a lot of times we don't know about, and I didn't know
wow.
about it initially. There are over 100 types of
What?
causes of dementia.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, so I didn't know that in the beginning. I just thought, okay, dementia is dementia, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then of
Mm-hmm.
course I heard about Alzheimer's, but I just lumped everything under dementia. Dementia itself is not a disease. It's just a condition or a group of symptoms to explain what you're going through. Then once you're diagnosed, they'll try to pinpoint it to say, okay, this dementia is caused by Alzheimer's, or
Mm-hmm.
this dementia is caused by vascular dementia, which is all of those blood conditions that I was just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Or you've heard of Parkinson's.
Yes.
There's
Mm-hmm.
Parkinson's dementia. There's Lewy body dementia. There are so many different types of dementia, but dementia itself is not a disease.
Mm-hmm. And you know, as you mentioned trauma, and that's one thing I noticed. You know, there were things that my grandmother would do,
Hmm.
right? So she was forgetting to take her medicine, right? Or she would go walk off somewhere,
Right.
right? And forget how to get back home. Um, then she got to the place because she was living on her own. Then she got to the stage where she was forgetting to pay her bills. So, you know, when we picked her up and brought her to Baltimore, we were actually coming from Florida from a family vacation. And one of my family members says, I think you need to come get your grandmother,
Mhm.
right? And take her back with you. And so when we picked her up, her lights were completely off, right? You know, no electric in the house. So here we are in the dark trying to find her medicine, asking her where her medicine, where's everything. And we're literally trying to pack bags in the dark. And this is in the South. So they ain't like we got street lights like in Baltimore. I'm talking about the deep South, right?
Mhm.
Where the dirt roads and all that. And
Mhm.
they ain't got street lights. So we're literally using flashlights trying to pack, but and that even at that stage, she didn't really know who I was. You know, I had to say my name over and over again. Of course, it got worse, progressively worse. But I was thinking when you said trauma, it was so many things that happened in my family to close people were close to her
Mhm.
that I believe that, like you said, it may have been sitting there, but it escalated when
Right.
all that the deaths happened.
Yep.
Um, you know, people getting incarcerated and things. It felt like people were leaving her,
Mhm.
right? So, would you say that that trauma piece can escalate it or cause it to speed up?
Absolutely, because those are the types of things that we don't deal with right away, and it
Hmm.
only makes it worse. So some of the things that they tell you to do, and again, I'm no expert, on all things dementia or the medical community, but the things that I'm learning are the things that I'm sharing with you. And some of the things that they talk about doing is making sure you have that social interaction. And a lot of times when you're going through that trauma or you're depressed, you isolate yourself from
Yeah.
everybody else, and it only makes it worse. The other thing is we're always in so much denial. Oh no, I'm fine. Oh, I just forgot this one time, or we don't want to tell anybody that we're going through it because we don't want to lose our independence.
Hmm.
And then we have family members who see it, but then they don't want to accept it, or like, okay, no, that's just Uncle so and so. That's how he is,
Hmm.
instead of getting the help. And then so collectively, we need to start doing the things that we know can help maintain it, eating the right things, doing brain exercises, doing puzzles, different things like that, being socially conscious, taking care of our bodies, our physical bodies, as well as our minds, and thinking positively and doing those things, because all of those things will contribute to the condition getting worse and getting
Hmm.
worse faster.
Hmm.
And then, like I said, at certain points, once they get to that point, there's nothing that can be done. It's
Yeah.
just, managing pain and making sure the person doesn't wander off, and, because it happens all the time. I don't know if you've seen the news lately. So and so is missing. They walked
Right.
away from somewhere.
Right.
It happens so much.
Hmm.
So we have to just do a better job of identifying in our loved ones what's going on, making sure they stay on top of what they need to do to get checked out, and help whatever situation is going on in their lives to prevent it from getting worse. But really taking care of ourselves, especially the things that we know.
Right.
If we
Right.
can control it, then control it. The things that we
Hmm.
don't know, we can't see, we don't know until somebody tells us. But if something is going on,
Hmm.
talk to somebody,
Hmm.
find out what it is. Don't wait till it's too late. Don't accept from your doctor that you're too young.
Hmm.
Don't accept from your doctor, we'll wait until it gets worse. You need to figure out what's going on right now.
And you said something key, and I actually looked at a study a couple of years ago about how important having a social life,
Hmm.
right? is important. In this study, it was talking about basically people that have a social life, or they have a community, they have a church, or they have a group, or a group of people, or that
Right.
social life, how healthy that is for you. And how when you begin to isolate yourself, the study said that how it can actually speed up your death.
Yes.
Right. How important, and some people say, well, I like to be by myself, but I don't think that's not healthy. From what studies show, that's not healthy. It's good to have a social life.
We all need our me time.
Right.
Definitely get your me
Right.
time,
Get the me time.
but you definitely need that social interaction, and you have control over what that looks like. It doesn't
Right.
have to be going to a concert with 40,000 people in a stadium if that's not your thing. But have a group of people that you can get together and play cards or talk or watch something on television, and you're still having that interaction. So
Right.
you just don't want to isolate yourself, and that becomes your norm, because
Mm-hmm.
now everything is against you. It
Mm-hmm.
I usually talk about how the enemy wants to separate you so that he
Right.
can have his way with you.
Right.
So when you're connected to other people, it allows you to gain that strength from them to be able to ward off anything that's coming to attack you.
That's it.
And so those people that's in that circle that's giving you that interaction, that social time that you need, it
Mm-hmm.
also expands your mind to when something is wrong,
That's
or
it.
someone else will be able to identify, hey, you did this 3 days in a row, that's not like you, like what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're by yourself, you're just sitting doing the same thing, getting worse, nobody knows it. And like you said, it does slow down our lives.
Yes, it does. That's it does. And we're gonna go to a break, and I'm gonna come back with the Sassy Cassie segment, and then we're gonna have some closing remarks from C. Nathaniel, aka Chuck Brown.
Are you looking to elevate your brand into a business? Are you ready to use your voice of truth? Elevation Global Media Group is your one-stop shop for all things media. Elevation Global Media Group has you covered. They offer podcast production, graphic design for logos and websites, branding, marketing, and so much more. Head on over to elevationglobalmediagroup.com for more info, or call 443-307-1241. That's 443-307-1241.
So today on the Sassy Cassie segment, I actually want to talk about, just recently, I had what they call a brain fog. That means that my creativity, I couldn't finish a project because I felt like my creativity wasn't there. And all of a sudden, I heard God say to me, pull back, step away from it for a minute, step away from the planning, step away from the computer, step away from it for a minute and relax. And I remember that day, it was actually on a Saturday. When I stepped away, I didn't want a TV show on. I didn't want radio on. I just wanted to step away. And I sat quietly for about an hour or 2 hours. And then I felt rejuvenated, because at first I wasn't feeling that way. I was feeling anxious. I was feeling like nervous. I got this big project. Oh my God, I need to finish. Why is it that I can't get this piece together? And then not only did I step away for that Saturday, but I also stepped away from on that Sunday, which was actually Resurrection Sunday. And I cooked for my family. I cooked a delicious dinner. They brought things over. So I'm just saying this. Sometimes you have to pull back and relax to come back. Because when I came back on that Monday, the creativity flowed, everything began to flow again. Because number one, I probably was tired. I probably was a little anxious. And so I stepped away, I pulled back, and it made a difference, not only in my attitude and how I was feeling, but there was no guilt there, because I didn't take any time away from my family, because I wanted to make sure that, the dinner that I was preparing, everything I had to do to prepare for it, I was able to do. And then that Monday, when I picked everything back up again, I felt creative again. The brain fog, because sometimes people, they have something what they call writer's cramp, where the writer can't finish a certain part of a chapter, or they can't finish because they can't think I would just say, do this, pull back and relax, and then do it again. What do you say, Chuck? What do you say about that?
Well, I get the image, and I'm an image person, so I get the image of a slingshot.
Mm,
So when you pull that slingshot back, it's going away from the intended target, but as you pull it back, it's giving you enough force to propel you in the direction that you want to go. So it's very key. And as a writing coach, I deal with that a lot with the writers that I work with. Like, okay, take a break,
yeah.
do something separate from what you're doing,
Hmm.
and now come back once you're rejuvenated, and then you have that momentum to continue on. So absolutely.
Yep. So it works. So, and one of the things you talked about, thank you guys for tuning in. This, thank you. I was going to say Sassy Cassie segment over. Um, but one of the things you talked about before we went to commercial, and before the Sassy Cassie segment, you talked about doing brain activities.
Yeah.
I remember he wasn't my uncle, but he was a friend of mine's uncle. He was getting around. He was doing real good. So we had a conversation with Uncle Wally. That's what we call him, Uncle Wally. He was from Raleigh, right? We said, Uncle Wally, how is it that you can continue to remember all this? He was in his 80s. How can you remember to do all this? And you're good. Uncle Wally said, never stop being a student. Never stop being a student. Keep your brain active. So, and that's what I find myself. People think I'm trying to stay busy. No, I'm trying to keep my brain active. I'm trying to stay in a creative mode, a development mode, because I wanted to stay active. I take classes. I do all that. I do a lot of reading.
Right.
Keep your brain active. Would you say that can help also with that
Absolutely.
brain exercise and all, and to kind of slow down that dementia?
You definitely need to.
Yeah.
And it's different for everybody. So there's no one thing to say, okay, you have to do word puzzles every day and you're going to
Mhm.
be fine. No, it might be different for somebody else. Somebody, it might be reading.
Mhm.
Others, it might be playing uh, brain teaser games on their phone.
Mhm.
People don't even realize that like playing Candy Crush is exercising the brain.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then there are Sudoku, the word search where you circle the
Yes.
words. All of that is brain activity. Think
Mhm.
about like Rubik's Cube and different things
Oh,
like that.
yeah.
Anything that will kind of challenge you to think, to exercise that brain muscle, it helps. So you want to try to find different things to do.
Mhm.
My mother, for example, she is like very active with her brain, and even though she still is concerned because her last remaining siblings have dementia.
Mhm.
She lost family members with dementia. It's been all around. So she's like, well, is it going to hit me? Well, I'm concerned. But she's like, I know I do these things. I
Mhm.
socialize. I talk to people. I read books. I play Candy Crush. I do word puzzles. I do picture puzzles. So she's doing things to help her. Again,
Mhm.
there's no guarantee that it won't happen, but you want to do as much as you can to stimulate your brain, exercise your brain, because that's the muscle that's going to determine what happens.
Yes. And can you also let people know how they can reach out to you, stay connected to you?
Yes. So on all social media is at C Nathaniel Brown, just like that's on the screen minus the period. C Nathaniel Brown, and then the website for the tour that we're doing is exposeddementia.com. So exposeddementia.com. And then you'll be able to find out the cities that we're going to, a little bit more information. The second trailer that we did is on there as well. We're doing t-shirts. The book that I have, which is called Exposing Dementia: 8 Critical Takeaways for African Americans, that's available on the site as well for purchase. It takes some of that same information that's in the documentary, it's in the book, because we know some people will read the book but won't see a documentary. Some people will see the documentary but
Mhm.
won't read the book. So we're just trying to create as many platforms as possible to get this information out. And so you'll be hearing more information about it But if you go to exposeddementia.com, you can sign up to our subscription on there, and we can keep you up to date on what's happening, the cities, new things that are coming as it relates to the tour.
And we also saw that you had Lou Gossett Jr. on that documentary, and he just recently passed.
Yes, it was painful. It was painful, but I'm very grateful for him and for his willingness to share his story, because he said the same thing. Like, we need to talk about this. We need people to know about this. And one of the things that I shared recently is that he wasn't afraid to die. He said, I'm going to live as long as I can. I'm going to do whatever I can as long as I can. And when it's my time to go. It's a graduation. So he was just like really imploring us to do whatever we can to make an impact while we're here. And so I'm just very grateful to have him a part of the project. I think a lot of people are, going to learn from his example, and as well as the other people who are featured in there as well.
Well, thank you so much. And again, you're going to be in Atlanta this weekend. Where?
It's going to be at the NCG Cinema in Snellville, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta. There's information on the website as well, on exposeddementia.com. People can check it out there. And then, like I said, on April 20th, we'll be in Pittsburgh. So the information should be on there. If it's not, it'll be on there today.
Any closing remarks that you want to give to our viewers before we close out? We always close, of course, with a prayer. And my prayer is that everyone will take heed to what you have said, what you have shared, and just begin to do the work.
Absolutely. I want to thank you for having me and providing this platform for me to continue to have this conversation, because my goal is to expose dementia. And I think about it, and this is something I want everybody else to think about it. A lot of times we are selfish and we think about the things that only impact us when it relates to those risk factors: drinking, drugs, alcohol, what we eat, what we do, what we don't do, all of those things. But I would ask you to think about somebody else. I'll give you an example of what I mean. So I watch my blood sugar, and I drink soda, but I know how bad it is, so I don't drink it as much. So when I have the option to drink water or something else that's going to have less sugar, I think about my grandchildren. And I say, you know what? If I don't have this soda today, I'll have one extra day down the road with my grandchildren. So anytime I'm faced with a situation that could negatively impact me, I think about them. So on this necklace, it has the names of my grandsons. And so I remember and I think about them. And I say, if I don't do this negative thing, or this thing that can contribute to something negative, I have one extra day with them. I have one extra day with my family. I have one extra day with my children. I have one extra day with my wife or my mother or whoever it is, if I just do this one thing. And so I just really encourage people to think about that. What can you do today that will prolong your life and the time that you have with your loved ones? Just do that today. And then tomorrow, try it again. And let that be the habit.
I love it. If I just do this one thing, all it takes is one thing. Thank you again for being on Moving in the Marketplace. You always have a place here.
I appreciate that.
You always have a place here. And of course, Romans, it says, if you openly declare that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Of course, we use this time to invite people into God's kingdom, into having a relationship with Christ. And we are also praying. Father, we just thank you for this time that we've had together with Chuck. We thank you for the work that you have given him to do. We ask that you continue to anoint his mind, his hand, and that you open platforms and venues and other places for him to go to present this. We thank you that he is bold enough to talk about this. He's bold enough to be the difference maker. So we ask that you continue to bless him and bless our viewers in that statement. If I can just do one thing, if we could just do one thing that will cause life to continue, to bring awareness, let us do it. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I am enlightened. I am encouraged. I am blessed. So thank you. Continue to do the work. Continue to do the work.
Absolutely.
We will continue to pray for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You are welcome. Thank you for tuning in to Moving in the Marketplace, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you for tuning into Moving in the Marketplace. Join us here on Elevate Your Life Talk Radio with your host, Cassandra Ferguson